Welcome back to the Road to 1 Million podcast. I'm with William or Bill Silva today with Elbow Grease Detailing in Tinton Falls, New Jersey. We've been trying to do this episode for, like 4 or 5 months now. So I'm excited to finally be able to talk to Bill. He's got 7 employees and has been detailing for 15 years now. It's always really humbling and interesting to talk with someone that's been doing it for as long as Bill has. It just goes to show you that, yeah, there's guys that scale really quickly, but there's also guys that have been doing this for a really long time and that take the low and slow approach. And I think Bill is a good example of that. So one thing to keep in mind, it's always super funny to me interviewing some of these guests because we're not podcasters, we're just detailers. And so when I invite someone to come on, oftentimes they don't have a studio. And so it's just in the middle of their shop. So there was a few times during this episode where Bill had to step out and talk to a customer. You might even be able to see a few walking in the background. So I'll cut around some of those different parts, those interruptions. But yeah, just keep that in mind. Um, well, we'll go ahead and get into it. I'll let Bill tell his story, and I hope you guys enjoy. Don't forget, you can use the timestamps in the description to skip ahead. Without further ado, let's get right into it. All right, today I'm with Bill, owner of Elbow Grease Detailing out in Tinton Falls, New Jersey. Bill, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thank you.
I know we've been trying to do this since April, and glad that we could finally make it happen, man.
Yeah, for sure. Things got a little busy for the summertime, so we kind of went black for a little bit, but finally you're getting on here and getting it done.
Yeah, how was this summer? What has it been? Have things been busy for you guys?
Yeah, so it's been the last like year or so. It's definitely been busy, but we do get like spurts where it comes like out of nowhere, gets crazy busy. Don't know how you're going to handle it all, and then there's still those like quiet days where I felt like maybe like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when everyone was spending tons of money and booking a ton of jobs, we were like booked out weeks. Where now I feel like it's more manageable. We kind of just take it as it comes. So typically we're like sometimes same week on detail jobs, and then like maybe a week out on PPF and bigger jobs.
Is that how kind of how you like it to be? So it's not like, you start having too far of a wait time, I'd imagine, especially with PPF, maybe more people are canceling. So do you kind of like it to be like a week, maybe 2 out?
Yeah, it's nice to be like a week out, obviously, or even 2 weeks, because you're like you get your deposits, you're comfortable, you have work coming up. But then on the back end, you do get a ton of people that are calling you and they want you, ASAP. People don't plan; they just sometimes buy a car, and next thing you know, they want to get it wrapped and they don't want to drive it, and now it becomes your problem, right? Like, how are you going to get me in immediately? So I like to try and find a balance, especially with detailing, because I feel like detailing could be a bit of an impulsive buy for some people,
Hmm.
where they have a day off, or they have something coming up, maybe a wedding or whatever the case, and that's like the last thing they think about. So they want to get their car done, and if you push them out too far, they're going to either shop it or find someone, obviously that could get them in faster. So we try to keep our schedule open so that we have those appointments available that week so we could get to everyone as fast as possible. But it's nice to have a mixture of both, if that makes sense.
It absolutely does. Yeah. How many guys do you have working for you?
Right now we have like 7 full-time guys. And then I have a couple of people that are part-time, so they're a little flexible. So when we get in a pinch or a jam, I could usually get them in and kind of help us out.
Hmm. Do you do you have them split up your 7 full-time guys a certain type of way? Like, is there a full-time PPF guy, full-time window tinter?
Yep, we have a full-time PPF guy, full window tint. He's comes in as a subcontract, but he's here like 3 days a week. So we're able to get through a lot of the tint jobs, and then detail. We have the rest of the guys do that. The other employees.
Hmm.
And all the guys here could detail. They could do paint correction, ceramic coatings. So we tend to do a lot of those jobs as well.
Okay, yeah. So it's not like someone specifically focuses on coatings and corrections. It's like they're all able to manage all of it.
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, I do have like one or two guys that I typically put on the coding jobs, but if, for instance, we had three coatings in one day, my other guys are more than capable of doing, either a one step, two step correction and ceramic coating.
Hmm. Yeah. Your window tint contractor. How many days a week is he coming in?
3 days right now.
Dang. I feel like that's something I've talked to a lot of guys that are starting to get into window tinting, and it's hard to find someone that would come out to your shop, especially that would be able to be there like 3 days a week, but are still like doing their own thing. Like they're still a contractor. So, I mean, were they always 3 days a week, or like did you segue that into that?
No, the way it started was one day, and it was like Saturdays. It was like he had that day available, so Saturdays just kind of worked because we don't really do much detail on Saturday. So he kind of has the shop to himself, which is good because with tint, you want to keep everything clean. You don't want machines running, vacuums, cars being washed next to him. So it started with Saturday, and then as time progressed, we kept getting more and more demand. So now we opened it up to Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. But he also lives very close by to the shop, so he's not far. So on a when if you could only bring your car on Wednesday, we'll try and squeeze you in. We're pretty flexible about that.
Hmm. Yeah. And how do you do the split? Is it 50-50, or are you guys paying for materials, or is he bringing all of that?
So we bought all the materials and we pay him a percentage, like commission of 35%, and
Hmm.
then we supply everything. We have the plotter, um, the software, so we cover all that end.
Okay. 35% seems generous.
Yeah, I know some guys do less, obviously, like maybe 30%, or even some do 25%. But I think for his quality of work and the like, I don't really have to deal with any headaches when it comes to tin. I book him, he does the job. He's got 25 years experience, so it's just a nice system we have where it's very like seamless and work together super easy.
You think you'll ever hire him on full time?
I'm not sure he's looking for that full time, and there's obviously always talks about going in house with Tint, and we did that with PPF, but um, there's definitely a learning curve, right? Like people are used to the work that he's put out and that we do, and if you go in house, you may have hiccups in the beginning, and your reputation could suffer a big time blow if you're not producing the same quality that you once were by subbing it to a guy that has that much experience.
Hmm. Yeah. Did you learn all of the services that you guys offer now? Did you learn detailing and coatings and PPF and tint, or was there any that you were like, I'm not gonna to learn this. I'm just gonna hire it out.
So I started as a detailer, right? Like I was a mobile detailer with it. Um, just give me one second. Hold on, Josh. Give me one second.
Sure,
Sorry, that guy just finished up a job.
you're good. So,
So,
so you were saying that you started out as a detailer.
so yeah, so I started out detailing. So that's like my background. I came up mobile, then went to a shop. So the other services I started about 15 years ago. We didn't get into until maybe about 4 years ago when we opened up the bigger shop. So at that point in my life, I wanted to learn tin or not tin, PPF. We took a training class with a couple of my guys, and between the business, running the business, family, all the other things I had going on in my life, I couldn't really dedicate it the time to do the trial and error and learn. So I took a training course, learned the basics, know enough to explain it and to kind of work with the guys, but not enough where I am like an actual installer of tint or PPF.
Mm-hmm. But you can still understand it. You could talk about it with customers and with the guys. You can understand hiccups and things that might issues that might come up.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I know that's basically what I told my guys. We did a training class, and I remember it was about I had a guy come in at like 6 o'clock at night, 6 to 9, and I said, "All right, this is great. I'll be quiet. Shop's closed. No one could bother us. We'll just me and two of my guys. We stayed late. Trainer came and was, giving us like, teaching us hands on that kind of stuff. And even at 6 to 9, my phone was still ringing. Customers were dropping cars off for the next day. So I started doing film. I started doing a partial. And after like an hour, I was like, guys, I'm never going to have the time to sit here and do that. You guys learn it. You install it. I'll learn how to sell it. And that's how we'll work the system out. Because just being pulled in so many directions, it's just a little, it's too much for me to just give 100%. And that's what you need to do with PPF. You can't take breaks. You have film floating on a hood. You can't stop and be like, oh, let me talk to this customer for 10 minutes. You got to finish that section before you could take a break and move on.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it sounds like my window tint training. I was like getting phone calls and got a million things going through my head. I got to be here. I got to do this.
yeah, I know. And it sounds great. Like, I mean, the amount of tint we do, the amount of PPF we do, if I was able to learn it and install it, obviously I would save a ton and make all the profit. But the business just kind of pulls me in so many different directions that it's hard for me to give that 100% of my attention.
Mm-hmm. Well, we were talking before we started recording about sales a little bit and how it's okay if you're doing 30K a month and it's okay if you're doing 150K a month. Like, one's not wrong, one's not right. It's like it's really unique to what you want out of the business as the owner, because that's why you got into this, right? Is like,
Yep.
what do you want this to be? And comparing yourself to other people, it can be great for like learning and motivation, but you ultimately have to know yourself and know what you want out of this. Like, do you want to be the installer? Do you really love to install PPF or do coatings or do window tint? Or are you more the guy that likes to sell stuff and you like to build out the business and the systems and you like to be more of the visionary of it all? Like, you have to know yourself and where you fit into all
Yep.
that, and then hire everything else out.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. You can't do it all. So you either got to build the business or work in the business. And if you're going to work in it, my advice is just keep it small. A couple guys, and be on top of everything. Do the installs. There's a lot of guys I know that are smaller shops, and they're doing great. They just do all the work themselves. Um, or you could build a business that you could scale, kind of delegate a lot more. I think it comes with more stress. They both have their stresses, but I think that you're leaving the work into the hands of other people, so you got to learn to trust them and work with them. So there's no wrong way to go about it, in my opinion. It just depends, like you said, what you want to do. Some people don't have the skin for it to deal with maybe 7, 8 employees, um, I don't know, 10, 12 customers a day. You're talking to a lot of people each day and dealing with a lot of different personalities. So it could get tough.
So whenever you started 15 years ago, it was obviously just you, right?
Yeah, just me.
Okay. And so you kept it solo for how long?
I started when I was 22, and I got my first van when I was like 25. So I would say it was about 2 years, two and a
Mm-hmm.
half years I was by myself.
And then you realized you needed some help, like a partner to
Yeah.
do the detailing work.
I was just like, man, this would be so much easier if there was just someone that could help me even dry this car, or do, clean the wheels while I do this. So that's when I was like, all right, let me start looking for someone to help me. And, I hired, actually, the first guy I hired, or one of my first guys, is still with me today. So I have he's still here. He's been on and off, but over the course of that, like 13 years, he's been here about 8 years now.
Wow, it's pretty cool. How'd you find him?
So there's like day laborers, and there's like a little area, like a town close by. It's called Manasquan. So there's a spot that guys just are hanging out looking for work. So I drove by, and I was young. I was like 24, 25 years old, and I looked way younger because I was like skinny, like smaller guy. So I see a bunch of guys. And I'm like, hey, does anyone want to work? I guess a car I got to clean, and everyone kind of just looked at me like, nah. And then one guy's looking at me. He's like, oh, what are you? He started asking a few questions. I'm like, come on, just jump. Let's go. Let's go do this. So he came back with me, and I taught him, pretty much everything, start to finish. And after that day, I was like, I got more cars coming up. Like, it was still growing. So it wasn't like every day, obviously. It was just like, okay, I got 2 cars this week. I got 3 cars next week. So I would just call him whenever I had work. And then over time, it turned into like a full-time position. He worked with me like every day. And then, it just kept growing and growing. And he's still with me today.
It's pretty cool. How long was it just you two until you hired your third guy?
So we got, so third year I got my first van, and then the year after that I got my second van. So then I brought on another guy, my guy Chris. He's not with me anymore, but he was with me for about 6 or 7 years. So he would run the one van, and we ended up hiring another guy to help him, and then me and Pedro were in the other van doing the other job. So any like overflow or other job, like as the business grew, all the new customers I would send over to Chris. The ones that knew me and were kind of used to me, I would just try and take care of it myself.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to do it. Now, did you always know
Mm-hmm.
you wanted to get a shop, or did you think you wanted to stay
Not
mobile?
not really. It turned into the shop idea when I started having employees, and winter times in Jersey get a little cold, where you can't do it year round.
Mhm.
So like typically back then, like December, January, February, and half of March was like a dead zone for the mobile guys. So my first shop actually was my mom's garage. So I built it out, insulated it. You fit one car in there, but I set it up real nice, and we would work out of there when we had to. But we were still doing a lot of the mobile. But in the wintertime, we would have cars drop off at the house, and I was there for I'd say about like 6 months or so before I got my first legitimate shop.
Yeah, and you were still doing mobile at that time.
Yep. So mobile was still big, and then when I left my mom's house, there was a shop on a busier road. It was still small, one bay, tiny shop, and I ended up renting that out. So I had that shop, and I kept mostly Chris would be there, and then he would deal with the people there, and then I was still doing the mobile.
Mhm. Did you like doing the mobile?
The mobile I did like actually. Like it was I for some reason it took me a while to become accustomed to going to a shop every day. I loved the idea of getting out, going to a different house. I mean, sometimes it did suck. You had to troubleshoot, find you know where to put the car, find a shady spot, pop a canopy. There's a lot of things you had to figure out when you were mobile. But I liked being outside. I liked meeting like people, seeing neighbors come by, being in a different spot every day, grabbing different lunch. I don't know. Something about it just was fun at the time. Now, like I feel like I could never do it. Like if I had to start over and was like, all right, I'm gonna do mobile. Like I don't know. I'm so accustomed to like having my shop, my all my tools, my stuff here. So it definitely changed.
And then when did you start like exploring these other services? Like I'd imagine that it evolved naturally into coatings from detailing, but then did you ever think about window tinting or PPF back then?
So PPF definitely became earlier on. I think we adapted that than Tint. In my mind, like Tint was the one thing I always thought about that was just like people were doing it so cheap, right? Right? Like I always thought of it as like a service, like you can't make money tinting. Like guys up north here are charging like $100 or like 150 a full car. Like there's no money to be made. And then when I met my tint guy Lewis, he's been doing it forever, and he kind of taught me a lot about it. He's like, "Oh, you got to offer it at these price points. You got to offer ceramic, carbon, and keep the prices high because you don't want to race to the bottom. You know, you don't want to try and compete with those shops up north that are doing it for $100 because they're using cheap film that's going to turn purple, or it's not warranted, or it's not installed properly, and it's gonna look like crap. So we had to when we did get into tint, we tried to make that our main priority, is to separate ourselves with the quality of installs, the quality of film. So, um, that kind of changed my way of thinking on it.
So did you meet Lewis and then you decided that you were going to get into tint, or did you decide you're going to get into tint and then you found Lewis?
So we decided we were going to get into tint, and I had someone else, like a couple different installers coming in, and I would say we were like 50-50. Like most of the cars went out, no issues, but there was some issues at first, like customers calling me, and these were longtime customers, so they were understanding. I'm like, listen, this is a new thing I'm getting into. Like, we're working the kinks out, but little bubbles here and there, things that weren't coming out as perfect as I'd like. And then a friend of mine introduced me to Lewis, and he's like, "Oh, I've known him for years. His work's great." And the minute he came in, I saw how he approached it versus some of the other guys that came in and did it. He had his backpack sprayer on, like went right to the car, super confident. Like, you could just feel a difference when someone's been doing it for a long time versus like when you hire a kid that's like still kind of working the kinks out.
Yeah.
And when he came in, he kind of started to explain like, "Hey, this is like what we're charging. This is like what we got to do." And then obviously we fine tuned it to make it all make sense from a selling standpoint. But it definitely helped like speed it up, the process.
Yeah, one thing I've noticed since we got into window tinting at the beginning of this year is it does seem like the lead forms, um, it does seem like the people that didn't know us before, that have just found us for tint, that it is a little bit of a harder sell. And we only offer one type of film right now. And so my theory has been that when we can offer a good, better, best and give people options, that we'll probably have a higher conversion rate. But as of right now, I have noticed that there are a lot of people shopping for window tint that when you give them like that one price, it's a ceramic tint, it's going to be a little bit higher than just your basic carbon film, than a lot of other shops. Like there's just a lot of people that are ghosting. Um, it's definitely
Yeah,
harder than detailing to sell, I would say, at least for us.
I agree. Some people just call and they want that cheapest price, and unfortunately, I'm never going to be that guy. And you want to get every job, but you can't collect. You can't get them all. So like we do offer two different levels at the moment. I think we're going to go to three. To be honest, I think we're going to switch it to um, carbon, the mid-grade ceramic, and then the highest quality. Because we offer expel, so you have like the CS series, you have the XR, and then the XR plus. So typically we offer XR and CS, but we might offer that higher quality for the people that want to pay for the top ceramic tint. But definitely having tiers, I think, makes selling a little bit easier, in my opinion.
Yeah, people like options.
They do. And if you could start off with a lower cost option, maybe you're not competing with the cheapest shops in the area, but you're close enough to where they might say, "Hey, let me try this guy out." And then you could separate yourself with your service. I think that's important because sometimes people don't want, the top tier tint, because a lot of people around here, they're like, "I'm only keeping my car for 2 years or a year, or it's a lease, whatever it is." So they want to invest as little as possible, but they just want the aesthetics of the tint. They're not necessarily worried about it's blocking 88% of the heat, or whatever the numbers are.
Yeah. I also think it's important to give yourself some grace when you start any new kind of service, because you get used to the service that you've been doing for the last 10 years, detailing or whatever service that you've started on and you've built your reputation on, and people come to you, and there's going to be a lot less tire kickers. You're going to have a lot more people willing and able to pay your price. They're not going to even reach out a lot of the times because they already know before they reach out that like these guys do high quality work and it's at a premium price. But then you get into a new service, and then oftentimes you forget that like back in the day when we started, that wasn't always like that, and now we're kind of re-experiencing that with this new thing.
Yeah, definitely. Because you're stepping in around here. There's a lot of big tint shops. So when I stepped into it, you almost have to come in. You want to come in, try to separate yourself, maybe go in a little less, try and entice some customers. But yeah, we took a different approach. We were just like, all right, we're coming in, and we might be a little bit higher. All right.
Do you guys have like some kind of um, flyer or like anything that you've ever tried to hand out for like window tinting, like when customers come by?
Uh, I put it in my brochures. So I have like a brochure that has all the services we offer.
Mm-hmm.
So typically, like if I'm not here to really like talk to the customer in depth and my guys are busy, they could give them that brochure and be like, hey, here's some info of things we do, general pricing for detailing, ceramic coatings, and then on the fold out it has like window tinting, PPF, dent repair, odor removal, all the different services we offer.
Okay. I was wondering if there was anything separate for like when people check out, because like you know how like some shops when you go to like they give you like this form and it's like just the aftercare instructions, and do you guys do anything like that?
So I'm getting one made. I definitely need one. But yeah, we're working on that for with my print guy because I think that's very important because everyone asks when they leave, like after a coating or a tint or anything, like how do I take care of it? And I'm sitting there, telling them and sending them links to products, or I have products at my shop. I give them like maintenance products,
Mm-hmm.
but it would definitely be easier just to hand them a brochure and be like, hey, read through this. If you have questions, just give us a call.
Yeah.
And some people even offer, which is kind of a cool idea, after you get a coating, like your first maintenance wash or even after a PPF job, to have the customer come and watch as you do that service so they kind of see how they should wash the car.
Yeah.
Like almost like it's like a training type class for the customer.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. I've also started to do more YouTube videos and sending people like a link so that they can kind of get that same personalized one-on-one, but rather than them having to come in and take my time, I can just send them a video.
That's a good idea too. Definitely we're working on that too, like tutorials, educational videos on YouTube. Uh, that's another thing that's huge. Like instead of just working on videos to try and maybe sell a job or show what you do, give them a little education too, like teach them how to wash a car or what products to get, or just so many different things you could teach them. Even like why choose ceramic tint over carbon tint, or certain products over that product.
Yeah. Yeah. And I had a customer this morning that was asking me about ceramic coating and window tinting on his new truck that he got. And he was asking for pricing and then was like, I'm kind of on the fence about the ceramic coating. And I'm like, cool, no problem. Hey, watch this video. And I sent him a video of it was another truck. So I think that's one thing. I forget who told me that, but like I think it was Matt from Parker Heights Ceramic Coatings told me that if you send someone like a sports car and they drive a truck and you're sending them a video about a sports car you did, it's harder for them to relate. Like they want to see their car or at least another truck. So
Yeah, that's a great idea.
I sent them a video of us coating another truck and like why we recommended this type of coating for the truck and a little bit about the customer and showing the process. And he's like, I just watched the whole video. That thing looks sweet. He's like, what would that run? You know?
Yep. Yeah, it's a much easier transition to like sell a job when they see their car or a similar car and they're like, "Oh, I want that." Like that looks great. Like what I get a lot of, what'd you do to that car? And I'm like, I did this. I want the same thing. And it's just like, all right, it makes it nice and easy.
Yeah. And rather than you having to set up a time to call them and then like it's more invasive, it's harder, it's more friction in the process. When you send them a video, they can watch it on their own time. It's more comfortable for them, but they're still seeing your face. And so it's still personalized and like they'll remember you. It's not just any type of video, it's you talking to them or on the video, right? So,
Yeah, that's one of the hardest things for me, honestly, is I usually don't like to like get on camera or talk. I'm pretty like more like to be in the kind of in the background, just running the shop, doing my thing. I don't mind like one on one, but I don't it's hard for me to get used to like putting a camera in my face and like, hey, Bill, talk about this product or this, because like generally I'm not like a salesman kind of guy. I'm just more like tell them if they ask my opinion on what it needs or what they would do, I would tell them what I would do if it was my car. But I don't really like push it like, oh, you got to put this on. This is the best product. Blah blah blah. I'm just like, hey, listen, yeah, you want to protect from rocks, chips. Like, what's your concerns? Like, tell me what you're worried about, and then I'll tell you a solution I got. And if it works for you, great. If it doesn't, then maybe we could work on something else. But I don't try to like push it too hard.
well, I'm the same way, man. I hate people that do that, that like push something and it's like, man, I don't, at the end of the day, it's ultimately the person, they're the one that's going to, make the decision. I don't want to push you into something that you're going to regret later. So I want you to feel confident in your decision. Now, of course, I can help you, like I can help give you that confidence or walk you off of this service because I don't think it's a good fit. Um,
Yeah,
but at the end of the day, like you have to be the one that decides on that. And so, yeah, I don't, I think that's a good way to operate is not by being pushy, but just by servicing someone and kind of giving them your recommendation, pros and cons of each.
do you get people um, trying to have you pick the shade of tint they want?
I have, yeah. What do you think
Those are
about
always
that?
fun. Yeah, I try to avoid making that decision because there was one time where I was like, I think you'll like this, and of course they didn't, and we had to like switch it up and go darker, and it's always a pain to do that. But yeah, we get a lot of people. I'm like, hey, listen, on the shade, I'll show you samples. I walk them around the parking lot because usually there's between me, some of the guys that work here, and customer cars, we generally have a lot of different shades on cars. So I'll try and show them, like, hey, this is an example, and explain it to them. But I hate trying to make that decision. Like, oh, I'm not sure I want 20 or 35, and I'm like, you kind of got to tell me, do you want a little lighter? You want a little more privacy? But yeah, we spend a lot of time going over shades for tint.
I've even had people that tell me after we installed the brow, like, I thought it was going to be lower.
Oh,
It's
we get
like,
that. Do you computer cut them or hand?
yeah, computer.
Yeah, and that's the way the computer cuts it, right? I mean, it's a certain, you know, whatever it is, 8 inches or however the kit comes.
Yeah.
But yeah, there we got that. Like, oh, I wish it would have just like lined up with the edge of the mirror, and you're like, do the best we can.
Yeah. And then sometimes you do a full windshield and the brow, and it's like, well, now I have to take off the whole thing and then redo
Yeah,
it. And
yep,
so now we're learning like those little things. Like those are the things that you would never know until you get into it and you've done it. And then you realize like, okay, we need to start setting expectations up front that like, hey, how far down do you want your brow? And if you're not happy with the shade, you're gonna have to pay us to take it off and then redo it. So like let's make sure you're gonna be happy with it before we start.
yeah. And tint, you got to be careful. Like, certain customers have such unrealistic expectations, so you got to like tell them like there may be one little speck of contaminant somewhere. Or, it's never going to be 100% perfect because there's just too many variables. You got dust in the air, dirt. The water might not be perfectly clean, or a piece of lint. There's just so much that could happen. So you got to kind of like let them know before, because we've dealt with that too, where they expect it to be 100% flawless, not one little speck.
Yeah, which is like totally unrealistic. But as a detailer, we expect that stuff out of ourselves a lot of the times. It's like we focus on the specs, but then you get
Yeah.
into this business, the tinting world, and it's like it's an imperfect business.
Yeah. And same with PPF, right? I mean, you could go back and lift it and try to get anything out that you find, but then you're dealing with, all right, I have a tiny, tiny, tiny spot. Do I lift it and risk having a stretch mark, or do I kind of like let it fly, set the expectations? That's probably the toughest part with these tint and PPF jobs is like what's acceptable, like letting it go out of your shop, right? Like, it's not going to be 100% perfect, but you got to also read the customer and know like what they're expecting to, and kind of find that balance.
Yeah, and how do you do that when stuff like that comes up? Like, do you tell them if you notice something? Do you like say like, "Hey man, like I want to show you this. I'm not happy with it. If this bothers you, let me know and we'll redo it." Or do you just say, "Hey, if you notice anything after 2 weeks, let me know." How do you do that?
I guess it depends on the customer. Certain ones I will like tell them like, hey, listen, there's one little spot. It's I don't think we should rip it off or replace it because you might have a spot somewhere else, or it
Mhm.
might not get better than this. And then other ones, if it's very minute and something they're not going to even really pick up on, I'll just say, hey, like let it cure out, give it a couple weeks, because a lot of them you don't want to draw like attention to something that small because then it almost becomes like something that they can't unsee once they
Yeah.
see it. So like you got to kind of, I think, in my opinion, read that customer and make that decision.
Yeah, and
Because I
some
have
people
some,
listening, they might be like, that sounds, shady or wrong, but like if you were to point out everything on there'd be something on every car, man. Every car there'd be something.
oh, I know we had one car, a Ford Ranger. It was like brand new, came in, and we did PPF on the front, and he just got it from the dealer, brought it to us, and he comes into the shop, and it wasn't finished yet. We were still working on it, but he found one little like speck on the hood, and he's like, "What's this?" And I'm like, "Oh," I was like, "That it's hard to like tell what it is right now. It may dry out, but it may be a little contaminant under there." He's like, "Oh my god," like acted like the car was like totally ruined, right? And I was like, hey, listen, like give it a couple weeks, see if it dries out. If it's if it's ruining your day, then we could replace it. It's not the end of the world, but I'm just letting you know, like that's to be expected that you might get one little tiny speck somewhere. And he's like, I just can't believe it. Brand new car, it's ruined. So I said, all right, how about we do this? And I said, let's take a lap, right? We'll do a lap around your entire car, and we'll find every single defect in the paint job from Ford. Let's see how many we find. And I went around and found 27 like different defects, and I taped them all off, and I showed him. I'm like, so this is fine, like, right? We're living with this, but that one little speck on your hood is the end all be all. But we could live with all the other things that came wrong from factory. So sometimes the customers can be unrealistic, and you kind of got to like let them know like nothing's going to be perfect. We're humans installing 6 feet of film, open air. You got all the debris in the air. There's so many things you're fighting against that it can't be perfect.
Yeah, I've got hairs on my head.
Yeah, I know you could wear a hairnet, try and cut, but yeah, it's hard, man. It's like, so I think as long as you talk to them, like we're very thorough now about talking to them beforehand, especially if you could kind of read that they're going to be a little picky. I'd like to get that out of the way first, so that sometimes I don't even, just to make sure we're going to take that job. If it seems like they're going to be overly critical about every spec, then I'm like, hey, maybe PPF's not for you. Maybe we go with just a coating, because a coating I know I could buff it out, put a coating on, and it's going to look perfect.
Yep. Yeah. Now, after experiencing things like that, do you do you rethink how you approach selling these services? Like, do you try to then set a expectation with every person that comes in? Do you want to show them all the defects in their paint before you do the PPF? Do you tell them like, hey, it's not going to be perfect? How do you think about that now selling it to other people?
Yeah, typically we go through it, and I usually do ask the question like, "Have you ever had this done before?" And if they say yes, I'm like, "Okay, so you kind of know what to expect." And they're like, "Yeah, I know there's gonna," and they know like because they went to some other shop or and they kind of get that there's going to be little things here and there. But if they haven't, then I definitely explain to them very thoroughly like there could be, a speck here or there. We try to make it as perfect as possible. We're going to do the best we can, but at the end of the day, it's paint protection, not paint perfection. So we're just going to protect it, wrap all the edges, and do our best. And not, we're hoping it's 100% perfect. But if you have one little speck, that's just kind of industry standard.
Mm-hmm.
If it's more than that, I'll replace it. Like I'm not going to send. If it's something I can't live with, we'll replace it. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
But sometimes you could open up a can of worms by trying to chase that perfection.
Yeah. See, I'm still struggling, man, with like just thinking about it that way and talking to customers that way because it feels wrong. Like not just the fact that it's going to be imperfect, like that doesn't feel wrong, but just the
Yeah.
explanation beforehand. Like telling someone like, "Hey, I just want to let you know that like it's not going to be perfect." And I'm struggling with that, man.
It's hard, yeah, it is because we strive for perfection on everything, right? So like it's definitely like something you got to wrap your head around because you know it's something they need to hear, but it's yeah, I think everyone in the industry's fighting that same battle, right? It's like
Yeah.
trying to do your best work, but we're not going to send anything out of here that's like an eyesore. If it's something like in the dead center of the hood, I'm going to be like, we got to take it. We got
Yeah.
to replace that.
So like
And
my
my
thing
guys
is,
know that.
and so my thing is like, is it even worth mentioning? Like, or can we assume that 95% to 98% of customers are going to be happy with the work we do? I don't need to set the expectation going into it, knowing that there's going to be that 1 in 100 that is going to be like the guy that points out the one spec. It's like, is it even worth mentioning to that guy? Um, is it even worth considering that guy whenever I'm talking to the average person?
That they're more understanding.
Most
Yeah,
people are understanding and they're not going to notice stuff like that. If you point it out to them, if you tell them it's going to be imperfect, like you're doing a lot of stuff that doesn't need to be done. It's like it was never going to be a problem in the first place. At the end of the day, if there was a big problem, you'd fix it before you sent it out.
yeah, I think you're right. As detailers, we look at a car from like this close. You're like looking at every defect, and I always tell my guys and even myself like, all right, we see it from here, but now we got to take a step back and like look at the car from like 3 to 5 feet away, because that's what the customer's going to look at, right? They're going to see like a deep gloss, a shine. So we're the ones doing the work, so we know everything wrong with it. But like you said, you know, to the untrained eye or a customer that's coming in, they might not see the car the same way we see, and they'll just see the nice gloss. Everything looks good. It's protected. So yeah, maybe we don't have to like kind of freak them out, being like, you might find. So
Yeah.
that's why there's definitely like two different approaches, like depending on the customer and being able to read that particular customer.
Yeah, and I think your experience level matters too. Like, if you've done this enough, and you've got the reps, you've got the experience to know that like it's just part of the business. It's going to happen every now and then, but I don't need to like freak people out, and you feel more comfortable. Like I went to go get a wart frozen on my hand the other day, and my doctor was having like he does this from time to time. He have like a student that comes in and they're kind of like mentoring or shadowing him. And
Yeah,
so he lets them come into the room first and kind of set the expectation and, just kind of check it out. And it's like kind of coaching someone like whenever you have like a waiter that's new, like, hey, this is Sheila. She's new. She's going to be shadowing me for today. It's the same kind of deal, but with the doctor, with the PA student. And so she came in and she's like, well, I just want to go down the list of like some of the side effects here of like freezing your wart off, and I'm like, that won't be necessary. Like I've done this. She's like, it could burn the skin. It's like I've done this so many times that I don't need to hear it, and it's not going to be a big deal.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm sure you get customers like that too. You start to explain, they're like, "Listen, we get it. We know, been here before, done it before." So, oh, hold
No
on one
worries.
quick second. That is, that's typically how a returning customer goes. They drop it off like he's getting a ceramic coating. They
Yeah,
show me a spot or two. Hey, focus on this, focus on that, and that's it. There's really no big explanation of like the process. It's just like there's such a trust at that point. So most of the customers here, since I've been doing it so long, just kind of like, hey, you've done my cars forever. Just take care of it, make it right, do a good job. And then they refer people that are like that. So that's like typically how it goes. But then there are the new customers that found us from Google, Facebook, Instagram, no relation, no referral. So I think those are the ones we kind of focus on more, like setting those expectations and kind of showing them what we're going to do.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's funny. I heard that guy's East Coast accent.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Yeah.
You
So
don't
I
really
go
have
to
too
this.
much of an East Coast accent.
Nah, not really. I'm very monotoned. It's just like no high or low or emotions. It's just this is what you get, kind of.
Yeah, the East Coast accents, those are cool. I like them a lot.
Yeah, we get a lot of that around here.
But no, yeah, it's the hardest part with returning customers is when you raise your prices. At least that has been for us. It's like, hey,
Yep.
last time I know that when you were in, the coating was, you know, 800, 900, and this time I just want to let you know that it's going to be a little bit more, and most people, they understand. I mean, we've had people that we've increased the price by 200% since they first started, and they still pay it. But it always is, it's hard. It's a hard conversation.
Yeah, and to get into the whole raising the price thing, you got to. It's a tough call because you're going to lose some people. Maybe 10% or whatever it is, but you're going to open yourself up to a new clientele. So, but yeah, that is a tough conversation with customers, especially there's some customers that I haven't seen in years, and like pre-COVID pricing, they're like, "Oh, you charged me." I had a phone call like yesterday. I was like, "You charged me $150. You came to my house in detail." I'm like, "Dude, that must have been like 2013 or 14. Like, I can't do it for that." I was like, I try to give them like a little bit of a break, maybe. Like if they haven't seen me in years, I'll be like, say I'm 450, I'll be like, hey, for you, maybe $400 or 425, or give them something so it doesn't feel like you're just like totally like gouging them. I guess even though you're not, you're just kind of keeping up with the times. But
Yeah.
yeah, man, it's tough. That's definitely a harsh reality that some people have to get used to. Is that when you raise your price, you're going to lose some people, but you're also going to open yourself up to newer people that you could spend more time on, focus on the job more, not try to, hey, this guy's giving me $200, let's get it done as fast as we can, kind of deal. You don't want to, you're trying to appease those people that were paying less, but your costs went up. So now when you raise that price, you're able to say, hey guys, take your time, do a good job. This guy's paying, I don't know, $450, $500 for a detail. Let's make it look nice.
Yep. 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 And it's also like, when someone, like I want to give people breaks that are like friends and family. Um, I like to do that. I'm like, hey, listen, I would rather you spend your money elsewhere. I'd rather charge you a little bit less and like knowing, because I know you, like, go take that money and do something good with it. I know that like it's not like you're balling. You don't have like all the money in the world. It's like, I'm gonna give you a
Yeah.
little bit of break on this, and I like doing that, but at the same time, I also have to be cautious and like wary with myself, because sometimes you end up getting into it and you're like, man, it's like, as much as I love doing this, if I were to do this to every single one of my friends and family, it's like it just isn't sustainable.
Yeah, yeah, we try to do something like if you're a friend of mine or family or whatever the case, like if you're someone close to me, I try to do is like a discount or maybe I'll charge them for like my basic service. Like we have a couple different detailing packages, and I'll do like my top tier service. Like, all right, I'm going to charge you my standard price, say $300, but I'm going to do my $450 detail. Like I'm going to polish it, I'm going to shampoo it. So like you're still going to get that top quality service. I'm just going to charge you my entry rate. Um, and it's also cool now. Like I'm getting older. You start to see like your friends are becoming some of your clients, right? Like I started young. I started at 22. My friends uh, couldn't afford a detail back then. Like even though I was cheap, we were going out. We were going, partying, drinking, going, that kind of that was more important. But now that I'm like we're in our 30s, I have like friends I went to high school with. Hey, Bill, I got this car. I want to do window tint, ceramic coat it. So those are starting to become my clients, like people my age, which is getting kind of cool because when you start off, it's usually like depending on when you started. But for me, particularly, I was a younger guy, and I didn't have many friends or family like using my service or even like promoting it or anything like that.
I want to talk a little bit about PPF. Okay, we talked about window tinting earlier, but I'm curious to know when you got into paint protection film, was it something that, so you said you had someone come to the shop and kind of train. So I'm assuming that you had several detailing guys there and employees, and that you brought them in, the trainer, and then they trained like a few of your guys to do PPF. Did you kind of figure out over time, like one of the guys was getting the hang of it a little bit more? And was it like a slow transition into doing that full time, just kind of messing around with it here and there?
So even before we brought the trainer in for that, there was one guy that was here, and he was working detail all day doing coatings, and he was just like very into it. You could tell like he wanted to learn more and keep growing like his skills. So at night he would work for an installer that was like a subcontractor, and they would go around and do jobs. And I don't even think he was really getting paid, to be honest. I think he was just doing it to learn. So he was doing that for a while, like 6 months, and finally I was like, hey, like, are you gonna do you want to do this, or are you just gonna keep like practicing with him? Like, do you want to like I could bring in some cars, like my own cars, my friends' cars, like we do them at cost or even for free, just so we could see like how your work is and if we're able to even offer this as a service. Because at first we did like everyone, we subcontracted it. Um, so it took a little while, and then I brought the trainer in to kind of like push us over the edge. Like, hey, we got to just start doing this. It's like
Mhm.
we'll work on our own stuff, work the kinks out, and then start to offer it. So that kind of like just having the trainer come in pushed it over the edge. But I had three guys train. One guy I could tell just wasn't really into it, and the one that was doing it at night, he picked up on it, and another guy who's currently with me and my head PPF guy, um, he picked up on it really quick, and you could just kind of tell like some people have certain skill sets that they can pick it up faster than others. You got to have a lot of patience, I feel, and they both are doing really good with it.
Mhm. Yeah. So the one guy that was doing it at night, working with the other contractor guy, he's not working for you anymore.
No, not currently. He's not with me.
Okay. But it was the other guy that kind of started to get the hang of it, that now he's full time.
He's full time, and then we're working on training another guy here, so he'll help him, stretch it. He'll help him install. He's not like full. He can do like smaller pieces. He's done some headlights and little things here and there, B pillars. But I think during the slower season, we're going to really push it more with the training and just letting him get more hands on. But during this time of year, it's just like I kind of have to have him jump around, right? I can't have him focused on PPF when he's really not installing and making money with it.
Yep.
So I got to throw him on a coating job or a detail. I just got to keep him busy. So once we slow down, maybe like November, we're going to start pushing, a second installer.
Cool. Yeah. And then, so whenever the guy that's full time with PPF now, so whenever he started, Like, was he just kind of um, shadowing and kind of helping out here and there with the jobs that did come in, and then over time, like he got confident enough to start doing it himself?
That's pretty much how it happened. Yeah, he started doing a couple jobs, and we had trouble. I guess the hardest part was mainly like getting bumpers down, like the hood, the fenders. That was pretty straightforward. So we'd have either the trainer come in and help us with certain projects, or my tint guy also does PPF here and there. He doesn't really like do it full time. He's more focused on the tint, but he
Yeah.
was able to help us in the beginning. Like if we were having trouble, he would pop by and help us out. And then after a while, they just after a few months gained the confidence, and then it was kind of just let them run. We'll figure it out.
Yeah. I feel like that's with a lot of things, man. Like there's certain when you start anything new, detailing, coatings, PPF, tint, there's going to be jobs where you have questions and you just can't quite get it, and you're gonna, phone a friend or look
Yeah,
YouTube it, or you got to call another shop just to get it done. That's gonna happen.
yeah, and that's why it's important too to build relationships with shops near you, right? Like everyone looks at everyone as competition. Like, oh, this guy's 5 minutes away. Like, screw that guy. But I'm pretty close with everyone in the area, so like we bounce ideas off each other. We help each other out if we need it. If someone needs a hand, needs some film, whatever the case is, we try to. I think it's important to like definitely network with some other shops around you.
I agree. Yeah, 100%. And yeah, you're never going to be able to get 100% of the market. So, like, there's people that call us for detailing and they want something in tomorrow. And I'm like, well, we're not the guys, but like, hey, call this guy. And yeah, and then vice versa. Though that guy might have a guy that calls him and it's like, well, I really need it done. I want it done at a shop and it's a big job. And, it's like, okay, well, call these guys, and they send business back to us. And that's okay.
Yeah, I think that's great. We get some referrals from other shops, especially guys that are just mainly detailers. Like I talk to a lot of the mobile guys, and I'm like, hey, listen, you get a car. They maintenance a lot of these cars every week. They're going to these customers' houses. I said, if the guy gets a new car, just if he wants PPF or a tint, send him my way. And then we'll maybe work something out. Throw him a couple $100 for referring the job. That kind of thing. So I think that's one thing you got to look at too is networking with other guys that are in the similar field you're in.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you can learn from those guys too, like, I mean, sometimes that's crossing a line. Like if you were to actually like learn from them,
Mm,
um,
yeah,
especially without like paying them. So like if you're someone that like wants to learn from another shop like a certain skill, you might it might not be a bad idea to offer to either cut cut them a certain percentage of the job or pay them, or just sometimes respecting that like that might be something that they're not comfortable with. And that's okay. But there are a few shops out there that you'd be surprised they are willing to kind of give pointers here and there and don't mind.
yeah, yeah. No, we have definitely like a few people we talk to, and it's not often, but if you run into something like, hey, have you done this hood before? If you've done this, like, and they'll be like, oh yeah, yeah, this, like stuff like that. Like they have advice on certain cars. We're not over there like send me a tutorial on how to do this job, but it's just like, hey, have you worked on this super bumper? Like this could be difficult. Like, oh yeah, stretch it here, extend it, and lay it this way. So they're definitely, I think that's definitely a good thing to have some people locally that are even your competitors, but you guys have a mutual relationship and you still compete, but it's like on a respectable level.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, I would agree. Well, Bill,
You
let's
never,
let's call it there. I know that we need to get back to it, and so I want to be respectful of your time. But I appreciate you coming on, dude. Really enjoyed this. I hope everyone that was listening also enjoyed it.
yeah, no, for sure, man. Thank you. It's been a long time coming, so I'm glad we finally got a date down and got it done.
Yeah, well, I'd love to check back into, and maybe whenever things slow down a little bit, in the wintertime, maybe we could do something else again.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm definitely down.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks again. And thank you everyone for listening.